Welcome to another live Q&A Swim with the Sharks edition here at School of Sharks. My name is Dan Diaz. It is my pleasure to be here once again. We have an awesome show for the audience. I can't wait to bring on stage a gentleman who really epitomizes what it's like to be leadership in real estate, not just here in San Antonio, but really throughout. Before we get into that, just a little bit of housekeeping. We're using a service called StreamYard. So a couple things. One, we do want to hear from you. Please let us know where you're at, what questions you have, what are your markets. And also don't forget to give permission to StreamYard so that we can know exactly who you are. So with that in mind, without further ado, we want to go ahead and bring on stage a gentleman. He has been in real estate for over 31 years. And is really a well-rounded individual when it comes to this arena, not just because of what he does now, but really his background. He has started businesses that range from portable restrooms to solid waste hauling companies. So this is really, really exciting. I can't wait for you guys to hear him. So without further ado, let's go ahead and bring Mr. Robert Elder to the stage. Welcome, Robert. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, Dan. Thank you. I'm super excited to be here. I appreciate you making time for me to share my story. So
please do.
Well, it's been an interesting journey. Like you mentioned, getting into other businesses outside of real estate when I saw opportunities. I'll kind of start from the beginning. I come from extremely humble beginnings in Laredo, Texas. I mean, like literally grew up on a dirt road. My pool was this hole. It was a hole that I was big enough at about 5-6 years old that if it rained, it would go up to here. And that was my pool, So
wow. That was, for the record, not the Rio Grande River, right?
It was only when it rained, bro.
Oh, man. Wow. So tell us more.
Yeah. So my mother owned, my family was very entrepreneurial. My grandfather owned a small car lot. My mother owned a women's high fashion boutique store. They owned a nursing uniform store. And so I remember like literally taking the city bus from elementary school, going all to, way to downtown Laredo, and then walking about 18 blocks to get to the mall. And then I would work. I worked either in a friend's ice cream shop, but more helped organize things and whatnot. Primarily shoes is my thing. And that's, I think, why Stephanie laughs at me. I'm kind of a shoe whore. So I definitely like my shoes.
She doesn't like competition? I mean, is that what that is?
She's beating me. She's totally beating me right now. But it was interesting because that's where I learned the mechanics of selling at such a young age. Looking back now, I didn't know it. I mean, I was there trying to help people. That's all. I was like, okay, you want this pretty thing here? This looks great with that dress. Perfect. Boom. Fast forward, the Mexican peso devaluation happened and we were literally homeless. Literally lost everything. I remember coming home to a padlock, like a gate. We had this big iron gate that would go into our house. And I had friends behind me. And they were going to join me because I had all these pinball machines and all this stuff in the house. Like I had almost like an arcade. And we couldn't get in. So of course, this was before the time of cell phones. I had to walk to a friend's house and call my mom at the store and be like, Mom, there's a gate and a padlock on the gate and I can't get in. And that's it. We were literally homeless. We ended up losing it. My family lost everything. Mm-hmm. I had to move in with my grandparents for about 8 years because my mom and dad couldn't afford to have me. They relocated.
How old were you at the time?
That was about 10-ish. No.
So that made an impact.
12, 13, right around there.
Yeah, that made an impact.
Impressionable age. My stepfather and mother came up to San Antonio to kind of rebuild their lives. And there's a really dingy apartment complex on Rector right by North Star Mall. It used to be called the Sunflower Apartments.
Oh,
and that's where they ended up moving into. And for about 6 or 7 months, they literally had to sleep on the floor. Wow. It was tough times, really, really hard. So it wasn't until I was able to come over here and finish my junior and senior year. I graduated from Robert E. Lee in '89, then moved back, and things were a little bit better. We had furniture.
Moving on up.
Moving on up, like, woo! Big time. But during that time, my mother went from working retail. She started working in this, what was it? It was one of the high rises right by 281 near the airport. I can't remember the name, One International Center.
Okay.
And then she ended up getting a real estate license because they required that she
Mm,
have a real estate license there. So
okay.
then she started working for a company called Guy Chipman. This was like way back in the day. Most
Okay.
people wouldn't even, but Guy Chipman back then was like, that was the dude. That was the real
Was
estate.
it? Okay.
So there was an opportunity, and this is where fate, I feel, kind of starts playing into a lot of things. There was an opportunity for a Spanish-speaking agent to go work at the Dominion. At the time, they allowed, it was the pavilion, the sales pavilion. They allowed one representative from each like major brand to work there, and my mother was one of them. And so
Wow.
I had already so she started going over there, and it wasn't like an official brand yet. And I started getting my real estate license back in Laredo because I was living in Laredo still. And they brought these 8 people together. They said, "Hey, we're going to shut down shop. Whoever wants to stay can stay." My mom was one of the ones that could stay. So there were 8 ladies, and I started seeing someone here in San Antonio. So I would commute back and forth like every weekend. And one day I get this phone call from my mom. She says, "Hey, they need a backup agent to the backup agent." So basically what that meant was I was like literally the lowest person on the totem pole.
They needed a gopher, and that's okay.
It wasn't necessarily a gopher, but like if one of the ladies couldn't do the duty that day, they needed someone to get in there. Well, I was single. I wasn't married, didn't have kids or anything like that. I'm like, sure, let me do this. I found myself working 50, 60, 70 days straight. Within a year and a half, I was outselling everyone in that office, including my mother. I didn't even own a car when I started. I had to borrow someone's car.
So I was going to ask you, what ages are we talking about right now?
20 years old.
Wow.
20.
Nice.
I'm 51 now. So yeah, I just turned 20.
Well,
So yeah, I had to
congrats,
borrow
man.
a car. I'll never forget my first client was Dr. Vaughn Dixon. And I remember when they pulled up in an older Suburban, they were like in cutoffs and flip-flops. I mean, you would think they didn't have 2 nickels to rub together. I sold them at that time, it was like a $615,000 or so house cash.
Oh, that was big.
That was
huge.
back then.
That was
huge. Yeah, that was huge. That was a big deal. And literally that's the sale that started my career.
Oh man, that's awesome. So bring us, and I appreciate you sharing, because it kind of gives a glimpse as to the man who is now. Where did he, come from? What is the niche that you primarily work? Because you're not just an agent. I mean, I'm sure you're there to help a lot of people. But if I got a $13,000 piece of land, you might not be the person to represent me, and that's
I
okay.
might not. I mean, I might not. We definitely have a niche.
Yeah.
Our niche is definitely upper end properties. We actually do a lot in the downtown area as well. It's funny because I didn't do anything downtown, and a few years back, I told Stephanie, "Oh, I'm kind of bored. I'm going to go learn the downtown area." And then boom, we're just selling a bunch down there. Definitely, this year was a transition into luxury. Oddly enough, even though I've sold a couple hundred properties out at the Dominion, I never branded myself as a luxury agent. I've also never had the level of success that I've had until Stephanie was a part of my life. It's crazy. Like I've always had success, but like we have like just exploded. And when we were working on our business planning the previous year for this year, she's like, "Hun, you're working all these hours. I want you to elevate your price point more, lower your unit count and whatnot." I'm like, okay. So I took it to heart, and boom, off to the races. We're going to close out with like 64 million in sales this year in closed sales, and our units are like way down. So price went up considerably.
So let's dig a little deeper, if that's okay. How long have you and Stephanie been together?
Going on 6 years.
Quite a bit.
Yeah.
What positive impact would you say that Stephanie brings when it comes to the effect that it had in your real estate? And as you answer that question, because there's going to be a follow-up question to that, is what is the connection between a solid quality spouse, mate, girlfriend, significant other into
Right.
someone's business? Because I will want
Oh,
to talk about that.
it's immense. So I'll answer your first question, then I'll go into the second one. So I will be super transparent in that, for years I led with ego. 100%. I will fully admit it. And
Can
because
I support that? Just kidding.
I would expect people to just listen to me because of my years of experience. And truth be told,
Mm,
it's like I very much had their best interest in mind.
I
So
believe that. Yeah.
when I say with ego, it was like, you're not listening to me. Why are you questioning me? Just this is what we need to do. And so I learned from Stephanie that, I have to take a different approach for some people, not all people. Some people
Mhm.
are totally fine with my high D, and they're like, yeah, all right, we can butt heads. It's great, boom, off to the races. But then there's other people that like a lot of facts and details and all that other stuff. And
Mhm.
that's where I would like sweep that under the rug because that just wasn't my style. But
Mm.
that's the beautiful thing, though, having her, because where I had major holes in my business, she would, plug them up because she'd come in and be that better person to meet with that individual client. So I would kind of like, take a little bit of a back seat and allow her to shine and do her thing. And then like we could win again.
Mhm.
It's huge. It's huge to have, to your other question, it's huge to have someone in your camp, spouse, significant other, husband, wife, that is going to support you. I mean, I will say probably a horrible habit of mine is that I'm a workaholic. I really am. I've been like that my entire life. Um,
The
I
few years I've known you, I can vouch to that.
I almost think though that it's my superpower as well.
Mm.
If you look at it differently, it can be, in my opinion, it can also be a superpower because I will be the hardest working, MFer in the room, as The Rock will say. And I love work. It's not, for me, this is not work, in all honesty. I'm very passionate. I truly love real estate. It's funny though. It took me losing everything to realize what my gift was. Because like you mentioned earlier, I've actually owned two garbage companies. I've owned a recycle facility. I've owned a porta potty company. I've made millions. I've lost millions. And it was losing the millions. And I came back to San Antonio from Houston after a venture went just entirely sideways, that I came to the realization that I have a God-given talent, and that talent's real estate. And I'm good with it now. For a while, I wasn't
Mhm.
good with it. I'll be honest with you. People sometimes think of us as, used car salesmen. And
Mm.
my ego was getting the better of me, saying, well, I'm successful. Why aren't these people respecting me? And blah, blah, blah. Now that that's all gone, respect me, don't respect me, whatever. That's on your side of the street. I'm very comfortable in my skin. Like me, don't like me. I'm here to help people. I love what I do. I do it with 100% of my heart. I mean, it's not about the money. The money's a byproduct of all of this that we do. I just genuinely love it. I really do. And to have that support system with her to back me up is literally the only reason that I'm even doing the numbers that I'm doing. It's because of her being in my
I,
life.
I love it. I love it. Guys, there is tremendous value in having someone like Robert here on stage with us and at the show. If you're getting value, do me a favor, like, share to your social media. And that way, I think Facebook really loves the algorithm when it comes to something like that. We really want to let people know that, there's experts in available, to them the way things are now. Now let's talk or go into a little bit more who the person of Robert is. You talked about one of your superpowers, which is to be a workaholic, and I agree with you. I mean, I think even Bhaskar mentioned a little while ago. He says, "Yeah, I've gotten messages at 5 o'clock in the morning. I don't get around till 7 o'clock in the morning." I hope that's not the case, but I can tell you, I've gotten messages from Robert on the weekend, on Saturdays, on Sundays. Hey, I got this client. He's looking at this house. I don't think I can get approved for a conventional mortgage. Can you help me out?
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, that's what we do.
Yeah.
We work nights and weekends for sure. But let's get real. Let's talk about what you would consider, or maybe Stephanie would consider, your most challenging weakness that maybe you're still working on right now.
Yeah, no, I do have ADD. I don't take anything for it. I did for a while, and I was like, wait a second, I thought it was kind of screwing up my superpower, to be honest with you. I can be very much squirrel, going
Um,
100 different directions. I do have a limit. I have learned that I have a limit. There's a certain number of transactions, and it's a big number, that if I surpass that number like in a month, fuses are blowing.
Wow.
And it's not that, we have an amazing person in house. We call her our chaos coordinator. It's Carla.
Chaos coordinator. I love
Yeah,
that.
no, it was funny. I was getting one of my cars washed, and I saw this little plaque, and it said chaos coordinator. I'm like, oh, I'm buying that. there we go, squirrel. And she helps us definitely stay on track and everything. But I would definitely say, a challenging weakness for me is just that. In the past, I used to need to control the entirety of the transaction, and I've learned to relinquish a lot of that and just deal with where I'm needed, at the most important things. I don't necessarily need to be doing the tedious little tasks. I need to be doing what I'm good at.
You don't need to be sending the documents for signing?
No. I almost don't even want. I don't even type documents much anymore. If I'm being honest.
It's funny you mentioned that. I was talking to a mentor of mine a couple of weeks ago, and he says, Dan, you just need to drill it in your head. Nobody will do anything as good as you. Like that.
Yeah,
Just
that's true.
Flat out.
That's true.
So just look for someone who can do like 70, 80% of good. And if you need to hire two of them, so things average out, then hire two of them.
There you go.
I mean, that's
100%.
really what it comes down to. Let's talk about some of the things that really bring satisfaction to your life as a person. What do you enjoy most as a human being when it comes to business, when it comes to being an agent, when it comes to being an investor? Do you have any investment portfolios? I guess we do.
We do. We've got 3 right now. Stephanie actually wholesaled 2 recently. She's definitely she's what do you call that? The mega mind, the big brain, because she's so smart and she loves all the numbers and the details and everything.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, no, she did her first flip, and oddly enough, I represented the buyer for it, so that was
it a high-end flip?
No, I mean, to some, yes, it was near 400,000. So I mean, it was a nice house, and
nice.
Her and her team did an amazing job, and my client fell in love with it. So we're totally in that arena and space, and we're now looking to potentially go into maybe smaller multifamily stuff like that. We're trying to educate ourselves, and that's what I love about guys like you and Biscar and some of the other team. You bring value to people that don't know. Like, I don't know everything about real estate. It's impossible. No one knows everything about real estate. I stay in my lane. But some of the big thing that I love doing is actually things like this, where I'm sharing either on a one-on-one, where someone's maybe seeing some challenges in their business. And if I feel that it's someone that will genuinely do something with the information, it's not like I just meet with any rando, and have coffee. There has to be a pretty compelling reason why I take time out of my day based on my hourly rate and all that stuff. If I'm going to pour into someone, I want to make sure that they use the tools that I'm going to give them, and hopefully, change their lives. I remember this one particular agent. He won't be named, but he's ridiculously successful now. But when I met with him before he got back into the business, he was challenged, didn't have any money, was really on the brink of bankruptcy. And we kind of broke down his business, and I said, okay, this is what you need to do. And now the dude's doing like 25, near 30 million a year in sales. Wow. I'm not claiming any ownership of the outcome. All I did was give the guy a little bit of a roadmap, if that makes sense. So I like to pay it forward.
Yeah, no, for sure. And sometimes, it's funny, people who are what I like to call inwardly successful. Like, you don't know what their success is going to look like and what area of business it'll be, but they're just inwardly successful. They just need a small pivot. They just need a small little movement of or direction or guidance, and it's like, they completely.
We all do. That's why I'll go back to what I said earlier. I will never claim to know everything about this business. I mean, this year alone, we've probably spent close to $60,000 in education. Just this year.
I believe it. Guys, if you guys are getting value, 2 things. Questions. You just heard it. Robert doesn't hang out with a lot of people on a regular basis. Post your comments, post your questions, and let us go ahead and pour into you guys a little bit more. And if you're getting value, go ahead and like it, share it to your social media platform. Feel free to tag School of Sharks, myself, Dan Diaz. Robert, out of his busy schedule, he might not mind a little tagging. It helps the algorithm. I don't know. It's up to him. But please tag us, and we'd love to answer your questions here live on the show. Let's go back to the comment that you shared about pouring on to other people. I'm not going to make any assumptions, but you're probably at a moment in your life in which the primary driving force is not necessarily money. It's more, how can I impact someone's life, their career, maybe the way they navigate. What words of wisdom would you share with someone who is maybe starting off as an agent, and maybe they have their license, maybe they have the brokerage, but they really don't have the wheels in motion to go in a specific trajectory? What words of wisdom would you share?
So that's a great question. As we all know, this business is not for everyone. People think it's an easy business. People think that the outcome is just going to magically appear once you have your license. And it's the furthest thing from the truth. One of the first things that I could tell someone that's new in the business is definitely watch your mindset. Watch who you're sharing your dreams, visions, goals, stories with, because more often than not, you might be talking or sharing that with a small thinker, and they're going to sit there and squash your big vision of, hey, I want to be a whatever, this mega agent and everything else. Sure, anyone can do it. I'm nothing special. I learn, and I work. And it, you do it enough times, you are going to get the outcome, but it doesn't happen overnight. I always get this comment of like, well, I want to be just like you. I'm like, well, shit, you need to have started 32 years ago. Come January, it'll be 32 years. So it's like, here I am.
You need to find a padlock in your home in Laredo. Let's start from there.
Yeah, I need to find the key. Don't give up. Work your ever-loving ass off, and probably put your blinders on, because everyone has an opinion when it comes to this business, or any business for that matter. You have to think about, I watched the movie about Lamborghini the other day. I'm a huge car buff. I got a Ferrari. I've been blessed with all kinds of toys. Like, I love cars. And so when this movie came out a couple of weeks ago, I'm like, oh, I have to watch it. And here comes Mr. Lamborghini talking to his father, and he starts sharing his dream after coming home from the war. And the father's like, no, that's a dumb dream. No, you can't do a tractor. You can't start it. Because that's how Lamborghini started. They started with tractors. And the father kept on like pressing, no. And I thought to myself, could you imagine if this individual would have listened to his father, we would never have those amazing vehicles running around on the streets. And I turned to Stephanie and I said, I wonder how many other people's dreams have been squashed by others who were such small thinkers. Does that make sense?
How many Lamborghinis we don't have?
I mean, really, think about it. I mean, that guy, he there was a phrase in there. He said, I want my name to live on in infamy. Well, that's exactly what has happened and will happen. That's a name that'll never go away from the automotive world. We have huge names in our industry as well that will be, icons in the industry. I'm not an icon. There are some names that will.
Oh, come on. You're at least an icon at zip code 78209.
But you have to really, watch who you share all this with. And the other part is learn. A lot of people just think, I know everything. No, it's the furthest thing from the truth, man. Again, hence why we spent $60,000 this year on education, because Stephanie and I, despite the massive amount of deals that we do, we still don't know everything.
Weren't you guys in New York a couple weeks ago or something? Tell us about that, because that looked like fun, at least on social media.
It was insane. So I have a massive crush on Ryan Serhant. I mean,
does he know that?
Yeah, he's super cool. I actually got to sit next to him, like literally right next to him during dinner. And his wife was across sitting next to Stephanie, and she's super sweet. And her and Steph they were going back and forth about everything under the sun. And it was funny because being around them entirely humanized them. They're people just like you and me. They put their pants on the same way you and I do. And, they have good days, they have bad days. We all do. But we went to that event, and it was not cheap. I mean, it was upwards of $20,000 to go to this 2.5 day event.
That was a third of your yearly budget.
I know. But it was so cool to be around these massive thinkers, these other really, really big name agents from all over the United States that make, what our yearly production is. I mean, shit, that's a weekend for them.
Wow. Yeah, they had a couple zeros in New York.
A few.
Yeah.
But we learned so much tactical information to come back and then implement into our business. And then we also have made some great connections and contacts as
Sure.
well within the industry, because we refer a lot of business outside of San Antonio, or we get referred business into San Antonio as well.
I like that. I like that. We got a question, Bhaskar. Tell us what you'd tell your 25-year-old self, or someone just starting out as a realtor who has the drive, wants to learn what not to do, and what should they do to grow quickly.
That's a great question, and I wish I learned this back then, what I know now. Years ago when I started, I was extremely transactional, which means I didn't nurture my client base. Like, I never kept the CRM. I didn't know what the hell a CRM was. I just knew.
Like, are you buying or selling this weekend? Yes or no?
Yes or no. That's it. It was funny. The one thing I did do, I knew that I had to meet 35 people to get a transaction. That much I did know.
Well, that's gold. 35. Where did you get that number from?
Because I would track the amount of leads that I would get.
You're smarter than you look, Robert.
just a little. It's funny. Nobody had told me that, but 35. At the end of the year, I was like, okay, I did this many deals. Here's all I'm like, oh, okay, I need it. And it was funny because then it became a game to me. It was like, okay, no. Oh, I'm on number 34, number 35. Great. There's someone in this group that I'm going to get to sell a house to. So
that I need to narrow that down. So 35 new people.
That was for me in my particular situation. It's going to be different for everyone.
Per week?
No, just it didn't matter. It was just 35 contacts
for the year, for the month.
It could have been for a month. It could have been for a week.
So what you're saying is 35. I'm just trying to understand because that's a different.
I had to meet 35. I had to meet 35 people to make one sale.
Perfect. Oh my God, you just broke it down. Yeah. So if you could compress 35 in a month, you're getting one deal in a month. If you compress 35 in a week, you're going to get in a week.
There you go.
If you need to pay something by the end of the weekend,
yeah,
start making those 30. Wow, yeah. That's a very cool statistic.
Nobody taught me that. I kind of like had an aha moment. But to answer that great question, if I could go back and tell my 25-year-old self what I know now, it would be absolutely like loving in a massive way on my SOI, my sphere of influence. Because that, right now, my business, and it has been for quite some time, it's primarily referral based. Mm-hmm. I mean, a huge amount of my business is referrals, huge amount.
Yeah, man, I think we just need to shut the show down and just like edit it for like those last 45 seconds. Because to somebody, because when someone is starting out as an agent or really any business, they want to know what is the magic formula, what's the numbers, what do I got to do, and if it can be bottled, talk.
This is it.
To 35.
You have to understand, and this is what I tell everyone: you're not in the business of selling real estate. You're in the business of lead generation.
Oh man,
that's with anything.
Yeah.
When I owned my porta potty company, I was in charge of sales. Well, guess what did I have to do? I had to meet people.
Yep.
When I owned my garbage company, I was in charge of sales. Guess what? What did I have to do? I had to go meet people. It's funny because like this whole social media world we live in right now, you get all these agents. Oh my gosh, I have 100,000 followers. I have 500,000 followers. Hey, show me your bank account. How many deals are you doing? How many deals are you closing? That's what I want to know. That's what I find impressive. Not how many people are following you. I don't give a shit about that. Yeah. So
it's funny in our world, in the investor side. No, you're good. In the investor world, we're like, show me your HUD. Show me your HUDs. Let's take a look at your balance sheet, your P&L. Exactly. Then we can talk. Man, that's awesome. Okay, so let's narrow it down to more practical advice. Like, for example, let's think along the lines of what would the schedule look like for someone who is either starting out or somebody who already has started out, but they want to jump to the next level. And what are some of the things that maybe on a weekly basis they should be doing or they could be doing to go ahead and exercise that?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So, when people will sometimes say, well, geez, I don't know anyone. I'm not from here. I'm new to the business. I'm whatever. They have all these, reasons and roadblocks. Go out and meet people. Do open houses, door knock. We've done so many deals because of open houses. If you do them effectively, I'll never forget this one that Stephanie did. Excuse me. It was on one of our beautiful, beautiful listings. She did everything like very tactfully done, or tactically done, I should say. And there were about 150 people that showed up to this place. Wow. Now, it wasn't like a multiple $1 million house. It was like a $615,000 house in the downtown area. Beautiful home by this one developer that we represent. And it was a turnstile of people. But had she not done all of these things throughout the week, door knocking, circle prospecting, calling back people from the text codes, I mean, just all of this stuff, she wouldn't have had the turnout that she did. Well, this is the golden nugget. One of the people that showed up was so impressed by what she did. She called her up the next day and says, well, I really liked the open house. It was an amazing event. I have a home that I need to sell, but this is the problem. My mother has the listing right now.
Oh.
She fired her mother to hire Stephanie.
You, sir, are heartless.
And I am. I was like, go, babe. And mind you, it was a near $900,000 house.
Wow.
Yeah. So anyone that's new in the business, you need to get in front of people. Go to a coffee shop. One of my best clients, who's now a dear, dear friend of mine, I met at a coffee shop. Because if I'm at a coffee shop, I'm gonna make it a point to, hey, cool shoes, great tie, love your sunglasses, whatever. Say anything, compliment some. That immediately, if you pay a compliment to someone, it's going to open up a dialogue.
In a positive way.
In a very positive way. And when I say that, it's, if they have shitty shoes, I'm not going to compliment their shoes because I'm a shoe guy. I got my Louis
Hey,
Vuitton.
Those shoes looks like they can handle a lot, sir.
But I mean, one of our best clients.
It's got to be a genuine compliment.
Yeah. We just got to wrap in, and I think we've sold, I think like 11 houses for this guy. I mean,
very nice.
He ended up being, he's an investor. He owns properties, blah, blah, blah. But that never would have happened if I wouldn't have talked.
Yeah, no, I can definitely attest to that. So let's dig a little deeper, because you talked about open houses, which to me, again, we're talking about learning. That is an area that I don't know anything about. If you can break it down to maybe like the top 3, 4, 5 things or steps that someone, an agent, can do to make a successful open house.
Sure.
What would your experience tell you?
Step number 1 would identify a property that's going to be in a non-gated area, that's going to be in a high traffic area, in which will allow you to put multiple signs out. So for example, if you're in Stone Oak, usually it's gated. And guess what? They're not going to allow you to put signs. They'll allow you to put one at the entry pediment, and then that's it. Then inside, oh yeah, put as many signs as you want inside. Well, it
doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? You could say that, but then I'll dig into that in a little bit. So fine, like I love, Alamo Heights or downtown or something like that, or off of 35. There's heck over at
Terrell Hills, Almost Park.
Terrell Hills, exactly, all those areas. So, and then find a good house. I don't necessarily suggest hosting like multiple $1 million house open. That's silly. That person is going to be working with an agent. Find a nice $400,000, $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 house that is eye appealing and is going to get some eyeballs and excitement and stuff like that. But you need to start marketing it that Monday. If you don't, let's say you're doing it Saturday. So start that Monday. So
is Saturday the best days?
I think Saturday's the best day. I don't like to work on Sundays, but I've earned that right.
Fair enough.
To be honest. Put a sign up that Monday saying Saturday open, whatever, 12 to 4, whatever the hour is. And so people all week long are driving by and seeing that. And then guess what? If you can't afford to buy a phone number list, go knock on doors, make some flyers. Go knock 50 doors. Because at the end of the day, what you're trying, the likelihood.
No, 35 times 2.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. But the likelihood of you selling that listing is slim to none, and Slim's usually vacationing in Cancun. So what you're trying to do is pick up other clients. And sometimes, if you're lucky, like Stephanie did, and you did it right, you're picking up a listing. Okay.
So the back end business to open houses
is a listing.
Is a
It's a
listing.
listing. That's what I want. I want a listing. I want another listing. It's funny. It's horrible. Whenever Stephanie and I travel, we always go to open houses in the city that we're at. Always.
Really?
It's no, we cannot not work. It's kind of sick actually. But we'll always go to these open houses and we will see how ill prepared these agents are. We
Oh,
start asking,
wow. So
tell us,
let's talk about that. What are some of
yeah,
the mistakes that you see?
what else is available in the neighborhood? They don't know anything. It's like create a list,
Oh,
create a
yeah.
list, create a sold list. It's like these people, they show up like 5 minutes, if you're lucky, before the open house starts. You need to show up like 30 minutes. You need to get in the right headspace because I've made the error of getting there right on time. Well, guess what? Maybe you just dealt with traffic or an irate customer or another agent who was blowing up your phone for something else, and you're not in that headspace. And what I
Yeah.
tell new agents is every time in this industry you make a mistake, it's a $10,000 mistake. I've made them. I've made plenty of them, and I'm sure I'm going to make more of them in the future. So I'm not saying I'm infallible. No, I will make a mistake, and I have made them, but they're very costly. So whenever I make that mistake, for me, it's a learning. Okay, can't do it. Can't do that one again.
Yeah.
If
I'll tell you something. I can definitely attest to that because my wife and I sometimes, whenever we go traveling, we love going to open houses too, even though we're not agents. But we were in south of Austin, a small town. There is a Driftwood. We were in Driftwood, Texas, and there was this beautiful community. Again, not $1 million homes, but $6, $7, $800,000 homes, and it's at open house. We're like, oh, let's go.
go.
I was massively impressed at that agent, and I'll tell you why. First of all, very well dressed.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, greeted us at the door. Third, I started making conversations, me being, the conversationalist, and he knew that neighborhood like nobody. He told me, if this isn't exactly the home that you're looking for, there are 2 more homes that are slightly bigger, that have this, that have that. And just want to let you know, if you're looking for something a little bit under this price range, there is a lady that I know here that she may be on the verge of maybe sell. He knew insider information on the neighborhood.
You were dealing with a good one.
And he said she doesn't really want to go through the full process, but I have information on it. If you're looking for it, I can share it, and maybe we can sell it off market.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh God,
you're good. That's an ace. But that's when I say 1 in a million, I'll say 1 in 1,000 type of person that is that good. We were in Palm Springs recently, and there were a couple that were like that. They were very, very polished. They knew the neighborhood, they knew numbers, they knew stats, they knew off-market stuff. When you know those things, what happens in that client's mind? Maybe they are dealing with someone else, another agent that isn't answering their phone, that isn't knowledgeable, that doesn't know what the heck they're doing. Well, where do you think that agent's going to go? Bye.
I'll tell you something. If I was genuinely a serious buyer in that neighborhood, I would be like, listen, we got to talk, because obviously the neighborhood, the addresses, the floor plans. He was telling me about the school district. He was asking if we had. He just knew that neighborhood down. I was extremely impressed. So
it can be, that in and of itself could be someone's entire first year. And you can build a very, very good business with that. I don't do a whole lot of open houses, but I'm in a different position in my life right now. I will say this though.
What a snob. I love it.
Next year, I'm going to be doing more open houses. We're in a different market.
Let's talk about that from your perspective, as being much more active in the retail side of things. Where do you see the market? And let's just bring it down, the local audience, San Antonio. Where do you see the market going? What practices do you see happening in 2023? Who's going to have an advantage? How can someone be prepared if they are serious about either buying or about selling a property in 2023? What's your thoughts?
If they're going to be a buyer, I feel that there's going to be some good opportunities out there. I'm very confident when I say this. We're not going to be seeing 30% drop in values or anything like that. Ain't going to happen.
I agree.
Other markets, that's different. I can only speak for San Antonio. We're not going to see any massive decline. There's still going to be a big influx of people, I feel, next year as well. Will there be an adjustment? Yes, of course. But understand that adjustment, though, is adjustments coming down from inflated prices, pricing that should never have happened. I saw one house the other day in this very affluent neighborhood that was priced at 890 and it had trickled all the way down to 600. Well, that 890 price was never right to begin with. So
it could have been 8.9 million to begin with. Doesn't matter.
There you go. I mean, it was priced improperly. So, we will see those adjustments. If you're a seller, you need to do your homework with who you're hiring. 3 times in the last 2 months, we've been hired by sellers who were fired by their agents. Why were they fired by their agents? Because their agent had to go take a job.
Oh, are you kidding me?
Yep. People have this misconception that just because Sally Joe got her real estate license and Jim Bob, who's been doing it forever and has done 2,000 transactions and is like the top 1% realtor and they're the same. No, that's the whole thing from the truth.
No, they're not. They're not.
Sally doesn't even have a marketing budget.
So, so you kind of opened up a little bit of a can of worms. There's about 190,000 active licenses in Texas, according to Trek. What would be, in your opinion, maybe like the top 3 or 4 or 5 questions a potential seller needs to ask a real estate agent to at least feel that they're in good hands?
Yeah, no, and that's a good one. We actually have a checklist when people are interviewing us. I literally invite them to go interview other agents because odds are that other agent is not going to have like this checklist that we have. Where do you rank in your office? Not your team, because now there's so many of these teams. Where do you, Mr. Real Estate Agent, where do you rank? How many deals have you done? It's funny when we'll say, well, how many houses have you sold in my neighborhood? And I always reply, well, if I only worked your neighborhood, I would be broke. So it's like, would you rather have
That's a fair question. That's a fair answer.
No, I mean, it is. It's like you have 300 houses in your neighborhood, sir. If I only worked in your neighborhood, I would be broke. But where do you rank in your, in your office? How much experience do you have experience in this price point? Don't allow them to just answer. Print it out in the MLS. Ask them to print it out. Show me it, because it's easy to lie. It's easy to do this. The moment they start asking for proof, they can't present the pudding when they start asking for the proof. Other things. I don't want to necessarily say that you need to deal with like an old dog like me that's been in the business forever. There are some great agents that have been in the business, 4, 5, 6 years that just understand the game and they learn and they do all the right things and they actually work. One of the big expectations also, and it's funny, like you and I have exchanged messages all the time. Do I reply pretty quickly?
Yeah.
There you go. A lot of agents don't.
Yeah.
You would be shocked.
Yeah.
You would be shocked if you knew how many people, myself or Stephanie, will send a message out asking a question about a house. One day, 2 days go by, no reply. Do you think the seller knows that? No. The seller needs to ask, how are you going to communicate? How quickly am I going to expect an answer back? Like me, I change my voicemail every single day. Hey, this is Robert Elder. Today's December 8th. It's Wednesday. I'm going to be in a meeting from blah, 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 to blah, blah, blah. I will return calls at XYZ. People know. Dang. And that's what I do. Every day.
That's oof.
Every day I change my voicemail. Every day I change my voicemail. So if you leave me a message and maybe I don't get back to you in 20 minutes like I normally do, it at least sets the proper expectation as to when I'm going to get back to you.
I think that's a massive, massive, impactful golden nugget because so I'm going to call you out because I've never heard your voicemail because you answer the phone, but I don't think that's calling you out, right? I don't think that's calling you out.
I actually answer.
I think that's a good call out. But I can only imagine the perception for the people who are coming in, and it's like, boy, if this guy has attention to detail to even change his voicemail on a daily basis, that's super impactful. I like it, and I like what you said, which is you give instructions as to when they can expect a phone call back.
Yeah. I always want to set proper expectations. And it's funny though, when the expectations are not met on my side and where I'm, the purchaser of something, whether it's whatever, a car, when I don't get that level of service back that I'm used to giving, it's very frustrating. Very frustrating. We're in a service world. You, me, a dentist, a doctor, we all sell something. At the end of the day, we're all service oriented.
And it has to be. My wife and I, she'd been wanting an Acura for a long time, and we went to go buy it yesterday. And
That's
MDX, by the way, oh man, that's a
cool.
nice car.
Cool.
But the salesman, I was massively blown away because he pulled me off to the side and he says, "Sir, I just have a question. I personally would like to spend a little bit of time showing your wife the car. Is there a time constraint? Are y'all headed somewhere? I'd love to know." I was like, no, whatever, take your time. He spent about an hour and a half
Wow.
sitting next to her in the passenger side,
Wow.
going over the menus, going over the this, going over the that, going over. And I just kept looking at him and I'm like, that is a person who understands customer service. When I said goodbye, I gave him a thank you and a little something. And I said, look, this is for you. You deserve a good stiff drink because you really went above and beyond tonight. And I was really, really, really impressed. His name is Andrew at the Gun Acura on IH10. I have no problem giving him a plug
Andrew.
Because do you know him?
No.
Oh, okay. I mean, I was just he knew everything about the car. He was very patient. But the time he spent about an hour and a half with her, and I was like, and I did tell him, I'm like, hey, if you ever need a job, come over here.
That's unheard of because you have to think about usually guys like that, they're wanting to go to the next deal so they can try and sell another one that day.
Not him.
Interesting.
Not him. An hour and a half. Just sitting in the passenger seat, going over, all the little stinking knobs and things. And
we have 3 Mercedes, and I still don't know all the shit that they do.
We'll buy your next one from Andrew. He'll tell you. I mean, I was shocked. Hey, listen, Robert. I'm looking at the time right now. I really want to thank you so much for being. I know that you're super busy, and I know that we had carved out this time to really pour it out to the audience. I'd like to leave you. I'd like to leave the floor with you for a few minutes. If you have any words of wisdom that you'd like to share with someone who's starting out, if you want to connect, if you want to say anything, if you have any events coming up, if there's ways for people to get a hold of you, obviously at the bottom of the screen is your contact information. But here's a few minutes really just for you to kind of connect with the audience.
No. I appreciate that. So lately, what I've been doing on a lot of my social media channels, to include TikTok, I'm finally embracing TikTok, is I'm actually putting a lot more value content, experiences that I've done in particular transactions or just the industry in general. Some of them are humorous, some of them are personal. Some of them are just, straight up business. So what I'm trying to do is just be a little bit more of the value agent, I guess, if you will. And some of these stories are for the general public, and some of these stories could be, straight for an agent to get some kind of information or little nuggets from as well. I really do love sharing my story because I am so passionate about this industry, and I've been extremely transparent about my wins and my losses. I'm a recovering alcoholic. I'm going on 6 years of sobriety.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I mean,
not for the first part, for the second part.
Yeah, no. I finally embraced, all of my platforms to share my story and my struggles as well, to give someone else hope, because someone that I didn't know posted something on their social media when I needed help. And I reached out to that person, and it changed my life. I mean, it really did. So I just feel that it's my duty to share, because of my large social media platform, to share that as well. So it's not all about work. It's not all about money. It's not all about awards and accolades and all this other bullshit and all that stuff. It's all fine and dandy. At the end of the day, we're here to just be better humans. We really are, and I know, I'm sure I have some haters out there as well, but at the end of the day, man, I love what I do. I'm passionate. I like nice stuff. I like my watches. I like my cars, but I like
your watches too.
I really love helping people. I mean,
I do.
So, I mean, you know, if there's any one bit of advice I could give you, you're going to get kicked in the gut a whole lot with this industry, and it never will change. It's going to be like that. Get used to being kicked, but just get right back up, get on the horse, and get back in the rodeo.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Robert, for being generous with your time and your experience. Please say hi to Stephanie. And I hope you guys have a great one. Thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast. You guys have a great one. Take care. We'll see y'all.